Another quiet night at a diner. There's nothing like having a mellow evening in good company to get through the week. But wait a minute, how is it this quiet? Isn't this New York City? Where is everybody? Before we find out, there's a secret hidden in today's video. If you find it, leave the timestamp in the comments. Edward Hopper is one of the most celebrated American artists, and for good reason. The man's chiaroscuro landscapes depicting varying aspects of modern life are as distinct as they are potent. Take Automat, 1927. For instance, the background recedes into utter darkness. Even the overhead lights don't illuminate the space below. Meanwhile, the woman sits on a table, alone, waiting for someone, perhaps to emerge from the receding void. Moving from this painting to the iconic Nighthawks, one notices a striking similarity. The composition is fairly different, but one element is similar across both, a contrast between urban interiors and exteriors. In Hopper's work, barriers like windows accentuate a feeling of detachment. In both paintings, the interior's bright colors stand out against the bludgeoning silence outside. By enclosing the characters within the narrow confines of their own world, the artist emphasizes the mysterious vastness of the night and the loneliness that holds the people within. Sure, this exterior is not as dark as this one, but they both exude an air of barrenness and, consequently, seclusion. The New York artist was interested in these borders between exteriors and interiors because he took an elevated L train for decades and saw scenes like these. Despite the bustle and character of the city, here you had people alone in a room with nothing but themselves to deal with. He shared their desperation. As a middle-aged man in his early 40s, Hopper was begrudgingly working as an illustrator to pay the bills. Even then, he did it for just 3 days of the week. He succumbed to his painting ambitions for the rest of the week. After his first sellout show in 1924, he stopped illustration altogether and also became one half of an unhappy marriage. The troublesome marriage directly affected Hopper's artistic direction as he continued to portray figures that were emotionally detached and ambiguous. By 1942, he was already a moderately successful artist. But while the interiority of his life had taken a new turn, the outside world was heading in a different direction as well. The US had just joined the Second World War. Nighthawks was painted shortly after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. It might seem obvious to define a relationship between the painting and the war, but it's hard to see a common denominator beyond anxiety. Hopper supposedly got the idea for the painting from a diner in Greenwich Village, but we'll never know for sure as we're still looking for the specific diner. He expanded the building's face and kept tinkering with the shape of surrounding structures until he arrived at the right image and mood. But how did he develop the eye for creating compositions with such clear spatial awareness? Hopper was a fan of theater, which really makes sense when you take a thorough look at his works. The sharp angles, the harsh lighting, and the striking division between different spaces are all hallmarks that he carried over from theater. Just take a look at the geometric precision of his work, all masterfully calibrated to highlight the isolation of urban life in the 20th century. Since the theater was closely linked with cinema in those days, his work inevitably went on to inspire American noir films as well. To think that Howard Hawks' The Big Sleep might have looked entirely different had it not been for this man, or Orson Welles' Touch of Evil, and his impact did not stop there. One can easily imagine that noir films in the European art house might not have looked the same either. Jean-Pierre Melville's La Samouraï and Le Cercle Rouge spring to mind. All these would go on to inspire masterpieces like Bernardo Bertolucci's The Conformist and Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather. Hopper was a massive influence in other artistic mediums as well. Talking about Hopper's entire body of work makes a lot of sense since his style is so distinct yet consistent. However, let's get back to Nighthawks for now. It's pretty much in line with his signature themes and aesthetic form. Now that we've talked about theater, you might find it hard to unsee the diner as a sort of makeshift stage. Right away, two things about this stage stand out. One is the use of visual techniques like perspective and color. The diagonal lines of the diner seem to converge at a point outside the painting, and the color further draws our eyes to the interior. No matter where you try to look, the composition and color guide your eye back to the four figures. This brings us to the second point, the figures. The four figures are huddled together in this small space yet seem to exist in entirely different dimensions. The diner's attendant, the lone server on shift, gazes out onto the empty streets, his body language echoing a longing for something beyond the confines of his workplace. Whereas the figure on the left seems to be by himself after reading a newspaper. Even the man and the woman sitting next to each other, who might seem like a couple at first glance, appear far apart on close inspection. Their hands aren't even touching. There is also no door to get inside the diner. The door we see in the corner seems to be for the staff. Nobody can go in, nobody can go out, no new interactions are welcome. This lack of connection really showcases how lonely one can be, even with people around. Maybe Hopper was trying to convey his own loneliness. As we delve deeper into this work of art, we begin to identify with these figures, connecting with their feelings of introspection and the complexities of human existence. Nighthawks invites us to ponder the universal experience of urban solitude, driving us to reflect on our own encounters with loneliness and introspection within the bustling world around us. An interesting idea about Hopper's work, and one that applies very much to this artwork, is the idea of liminal spaces. Spaces that we come across in routine life. Spaces that seem quite trivial since we don't pay any attention to them. But when it's put in front of us like this, it has a somewhat transcendent effect. They seem real, yet dreamlike at the same time. Just take a look at this. A gas station is a very familiar space for a lot of us, but when confronted in this manner, it seems eerie and unnerving. The Nighthawks also offers this familiar unfamiliarity. We've seen places like this, but in this one moment it looks just a little off, like something's not entirely right. Is something lurking in the shadows? Where are all the people? Maybe the lines converging outside the painting are also responsible for unnerving us. You can feel the blues in your bones, but in a good way. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. For more content, please subscribe. Did you find the secret in today's video? Don't forget to leave the timestamp in the comment. What do you think of Nighthawks? Let us know in the comments. That's it for now. We'll see you in the next one.